Scott Becker with 405 South Washington with Hodge and Associates. I just had a couple comments. We do plan on extending the storm system north and collecting that water, and that was generally why we chose that spot for the road. It was the lowest point. It's been our experience that it's a lot easier to gravity feed sanitary and storm, so if we can keep those into the lowest points, the easiest accesses to maintain, they can handle a lot more capacity that way. We're working through, we haven't submitted the plans to the city yet. We were kind of waiting for this interim step to get through preliminary plat before we submit our construction drawings. We do have a couple cleanup items that we need to take care of, so catching the stormwater will address that. And just wanted to touch on, there's a lot of areas in town right now that do have standing water that I don't think are considered ponds generally. It's been a little bit wetter spring than we've had for a while. And so, yeah, basically I just wanted to address that and once again touch that, no booster station prices have been negotiated, and that's not really the forum here. So,
is it appropriate to ask you if about the Voxman letter that they're talking about?
Yes, absolutely. I looked at the Voxman letter. The developer would love to see a local road put through this subdivision, but it wasn't the city's intention to do that, and so through a lot of back and forth work and a lot more work than I believe the council knows, the city staff put in a lot of work, the developers put in a lot of work and came up with a compromise solution for that I think works. But we are aware of the Voxman letter. We're not necessarily in support of it. It was just, we had a plan, and we were hoping for a local road, but we understand that wasn't necessarily in the cards. So.
It's pretty much the same thing I wanted to ask you, Scott. If the developer was aware of the alternate proposal that the local residents are putting forth with the two cul-de-sacs, and if they would be interested in looking at that, or if they've looked at it enough and decided that they're not interested in proceeding with the development in that vein.
What we've looked at is because of fire turnaround areas, cul-de-sacs are no longer, if you see a standard cul-de-sac in town, that is an outdated cul-de-sac. The cul-de-sacs now have to be so huge that they just turn into giant paved parking lots, and they're really not efficient for development. I mean, it has to be a severe case before you would even consider a cul-de-sac in Moscow or Pullman or anywhere at this time, just because of the fire requirements to turn around. It's just they're just not efficient.
Would if you were to proceed in that vein, would it have negative economic consequence to the developer?
We haven't looked at it that closely yet. I believe it would. I believe we would lose some lots. Like I said, the value of the lots would be higher on a local road, just because, or local street, just because of, in a realtor's eyes, they could sell that more easily than a collector street.
Thank you.
John.
Well, the only thing I've got at this point, Scott, is with the idea of cul-de-sacs, it appears as though if you put in two cul-de-sacs, you're just choking things off more than they already are. And if you put in 20 lots, I don't know that the increased traffic is going to be that much. Do you have a response to that, or?
These are going to be higher end, nicer homes, and I don't believe that it's going to, the traffic load on the road is going to be very much anyway. I mean, it's going to be, these are going to be nice areas. It's a residential. These aren't apartments or duplexes. I mean, these are larger homes, and 20 lots is not going to put a heavy load on the roadway system.
If everybody left at the same time and everybody came back at the same time, that might be a bit of a problem, but the chances of everybody in the neighborhood moving at the same time are pretty slim.
I would be surprised if you would even notice a 10-second delay in traffic.
Okay. Thank you, Scott.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the public hearing gets reclosed. And now we do our deliberation. Who would like to start? Walter would like to start.
Well, unless somebody else wants to. I've got two things. One, I've got and it was pointed out in the neighborhood meetings, I've got a real problem with Lanny Lane and Landy Lane. When Mike first announced this earlier, I almost thought he said Landy Lane instead of Lanny Lane. I'd have to go back to the tape and see which he did. But the fact that I heard one or the other and wasn't sure which, I do not want to be a emergency dispatcher trying to figure out where the heart attack is.
There's worse than that out there, trust me.
Pardon me?
There's worse names than
But
that.
this is the one we've got in front of us tonight. So I would really like to see the staff negotiate with the two names to see if they can find something to separate them for that reason. Secondly, I do like the 10-foot path proposal and the 2-foot widening of the street that's been proposed, but I do not like the parking on the north side for now. And then we will remove it later. First of all, staff, which will turn over, and council, which will turn over, has to remember that this agreement was made in 2016, and that in 2026, we're supposed to pull the parking on the north side. I find that challenging as to how you keep up with that. Secondly, I can almost guarantee you the neighbors who have enjoyed parking on one side of the street for pick the tens of years would have any interest at all of losing it. Now, the city has the ability to pull it if they want to, but when those types of things come before councils, and I've seen it happen several times since I've been on, we don't always work in the best interest of the entire community. A neighbor or two can sway us to make changes in streets for long or short sections because the neighbors make a very convincing case. For example, there are now 2 stop signs on First Street that did not used to be there. A neighbor came and complained to the council 10 years ago that the traffic on that was too fast, too many cars, and they needed some stop signs to break that up. And the council did it. For good or bad, whatever, it was done. It hurt the east-west connectivity, which is sorely lacking in this community in the first place. So my only point, not to pick on that, but is that if we put it on, I wonder how it'll ever come off. So I would really like to challenge staff to come up with a third or fourth or whatever it is last solution. Is tonight a good time to come up with one?
Why not just jump to the second plan that was going to be in place later on? Just leapfrog the first one.
But for council's discussion, I mean, and staff's input. But I'm just saying that I like the path idea, I like the widening by 2 feet. The parking now and take it away at some point in the undefined future strikes me as is really going to be tough to do.
Mr. Mayor?
Sir?
I disagree with Walter on that. The function of this body over the years is to make changes as they are necessary. not to just basically say that decision X made in 2016 is carved in stone and cannot be changed. When I was on this body back before 2010, we changed 6th Street, and from the parking on both sides to parking on one side, and where are we going to go with it? And there was some consternation, but since that has been done, I haven't heard any more about it. And I think as far as having a situation where we start out with parking on both sides of the street, knowing that at some time in the future, and I could just as easily say that everyone in this room, young and old, will probably have passed on by the time that happens. And so it's not something that we need to worry about, and it's certainly not something that I'm going to use to base a decision on as to, I understand why you said it, Walter, but I just, I don't agree with it. And I think that the idea that the Picas have is a good idea. I think the presentation that was made here and up there, and then the careful consideration that was given the whole process by planning and zoning. And I was the council liaison for planning and zoning for 2 years, and that body is diverse. It is well informed. They ask a lot of questions of themselves, of the city, and when they come up with a solution to a problem, or they come up with a way to move the process along, I have a tendency to go along with what they have come up with. And in this particular case, I'm going to do that.